I thought family meant everything. I believed blood was thicker than water, that the people who raised you would never deliberately destroy you. I was wrong. Dead wrong. This is the true betrayal story that shattered not just my trust, but my entire understanding of what it means to be loved unconditionally. My name is Melissa, and this is the day I discovered that the person I trusted most in this world had been living a lie for 23 years, and I was that lie. Growing up, I was the pride of the Mitchell family. My parents, David and Linda, had created what seemed like the perfect suburban life in Ohio. Dad worked as an engineer, Mom was a devoted homemaker, and our house was always filled with laughter, Sunday dinners, and bedtime stories. I was their miracle baby, they used to say. Born after years of trying, when they thought they'd never have children. Mom would stroke my hair and tell me I was her greatest blessing, her answered prayer. Dad taught me to ride a bike, helped with homework, and never missed a single school play or graduation. We were close, closer than most families. I called them my best friends. Every major decision in my life, from college choices to career moves, involved long conversations around our kitchen table. When I moved to California for work, we talked every Sunday without fail. When I got engaged to my fiancé Mark, they were the first people I called, tears of joy streaming down my face. Trust was the foundation of everything we built together. I never questioned their love, their stories, or their devotion. Why would I? They were my parents, my anchors, my safe harbor in every storm life threw my way. But every foundation, no matter how solid it appears, can have cracks hidden beneath the surface. The first crack appeared during a seemingly innocent conversation last spring. I was planning my wedding, excited about family traditions and heritage. I wanted to incorporate something meaningful from both sides of our family tree. Melissa, do you have any photos from when you were pregnant with me? I asked during one of our Sunday calls. I'm making a scrapbook for the wedding, something about our family's journey. There was a pause. A long pause. Longer than normal. Oh, honey, you know how terrible I was with cameras back then, she laughed, but it sounded forced. Strained. Besides, I was so sick during that pregnancy, I probably looked awful in any photos. I didn't think much of it then, but looking back, that was the moment things started feeling different. Small things. Tiny inconsistencies that I brushed off because questioning your parents feels like questioning gravity itself. A few weeks later, I was helping Dad organize old documents for their move to a smaller house. Retirement was approaching, and they were downsizing. As I sorted through boxes of paperwork, insurance documents, and tax returns, I noticed something odd. There were no medical records from 1999, the year I was born. No hospital bills, no prenatal care receipts, nothing. For a woman who kept every grocery receipt, it seemed strange that such important documents would be missing. Dad, where are Mom's medical records from when I was born? I asked casually while we worked. He fumbled with a stack of papers, not meeting my eyes. Your mother probably filed those somewhere special. You know how she is about important documents. But I did know how she was. Obsessively organized. Everything had its place, its system, its order. The second crack appeared during a family gathering in June. My Aunt Patricia, Mom's sister, had too much wine at dinner. She was telling stories about their childhood, laughing about old memories, when she suddenly stopped mid-sentence and looked at me with this strange expression. "You know, Melissa, you look nothing like Linda did at your age," she said, studying my face intently. "In fact, you don't really look like either of them." Genetics are so funny sometimes. The room fell silent. Mom's face went pale. Dad cleared his throat loudly and changed the subject to baseball scores, but I caught the look that passed between my parents. It was quick, almost imperceptible, but it was there. Fear. Panic. Guilt. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stood in front of my bathroom mirror, really looking at myself for the first time with objective eyes. Aunt Patricia was right. My green eyes came from neither of my brown-eyed parents. My straight blonde hair looked nothing like their dark, wavy locks. My facial structure, my height, even my hands, nothing seemed to match. I tried to rationalize it. Genetics skip generations, right? Maybe I looked like a grandparent I'd never met. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and it began to grow in the darkness of my uncertainty. The breaking point came in August, during what should have been a routine visit to finalize wedding details. I was staying in my childhood bedroom, surrounded by the same pink walls and stuffed animals that had comforted me for decades. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was fundamentally wrong. The missing medical records, the strange reactions, the way conversations stopped when I entered rooms, it all formed a pattern I could no longer ignore. That's when I made the decision that would change everything. I ordered a DNA test online. Just one of those simple ancestry kits that everyone was using. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I just needed proof to silence the doubts that were eating me alive. 3 weeks later, the results arrived via email while I was at work. I remember exactly where I was sitting, my cubicle by the window, the afternoon sun streaming across my desk, the sound of keyboard clicking around me. Such an ordinary moment for such an extraordinary revelation. I clicked open the email with trembling fingers. The words on the screen didn't make sense at first. I read them 3 times before their meaning penetrated. No biological relationship detected with tested relatives. I had tested against a database that included both of my parents' DNA profiles, submitted months earlier when they'd gotten curious about their own ancestry. The computer was telling me, with scientific certainty, that David and Linda Mitchell were not my biological parents. 23 years of my life had been built on a lie. My hands shook as I scrolled through the detailed breakdown. 0% DNA match with the man who taught me to drive. 0% with the woman who kissed my scraped knees and braided my hair for school pictures. I wasn't their miracle baby. I wasn't their answered prayer. I wasn't even their child. The office around me seemed to fade away. The chatter of my coworkers became white noise. I felt like I was drowning in plain sight, gasping for air in a reality that had just been turned completely upside down. Who was I? If everything I'd believed about my identity was false, what else had they lied about? How could the people I trusted most in this world look me in the eye every day for 23 years while hiding such a fundamental truth? This wasn't just cheating or broken trust. This was a betrayal that reached into the very core of my existence. I drove straight to their house from work that day. My hands were still shaking as I knocked on the door of the home where I'd grown up, where I'd felt safe and loved and completely secure in who I was. Mom opened the door with her usual bright smile. "Melissa. What a wonderful surprise. I was just making your favorite cookies." "We need to talk," I interrupted, walking past her into the living room where Dad was watching the news. I placed the printed DNA results on the coffee table between us like evidence in a courtroom. The paper seemed to glow under their warm living room lighting, this stark scientific document in the middle of their cozy, familiar space. "Explain this," I said simply. The silence that followed was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. Dad's face crumbled. Mom started crying immediately, not the gentle tears of sadness, but the harsh, desperate sobs of someone whose deepest secret had just been exposed. "Oh, sweetheart," Mom whispered through her tears. "We wanted to tell you. We tried so many times." "Tell me what?" I demanded, my voice stronger than I felt. "Tell me that I'm adopted? Tell me that my entire life has been a lie? Tell me that every story you've ever told me about my birth, my heritage, my identity was completely fabricated?" Dad finally spoke, his voice broken. "We were going to tell you when you turned 18. Then when you graduated college. Then when you got engaged. There never seemed to be a right time to destroy your world. So, you decided to never tell me at all?" The betrayal cut deeper than I thought possible. You were going to let me live my entire life not knowing who I really am? The story came out in pieces, between Mom's sobs and Dad's halting explanations. They had indeed struggled with infertility for years. When I was 3 months old, they had taken me in through a private adoption arranged by a family friend. My biological mother was a teenager who couldn't care for me. She had wanted a closed adoption, no contact, no information shared. They had planned to tell me, they insisted. But I was such a happy child, so secure and confident in our family unit. The years passed, and the secret became heavier, more complicated, more impossible to reveal without destroying everything we'd built together. "You're our daughter," Mom pleaded. "Biology doesn't change that. We raised you, we love you, You lied to me," I cut her off. "Every single day of my life, you looked me in the eye and maintained a lie. That's not love. That's betrayal." I left their house that night and didn't speak to them for 3 months. The silence between us was deafening, but I needed space to process the magnitude of what had happened. This wasn't just about being adopted, it was about the decades of deception that followed. Mark, my fiancé, was incredible during this time. He held me while I cried, listened to my anger without judgment, and helped me navigate the complex emotions of feeling simultaneously grateful for their love and devastated by their betrayal. The turning point in my healing came when I realized that my parents' deception, while deeply hurtful, had come from a place of fear rather than malice. They hadn't lied to hurt me, they had lied to protect me, and themselves, from a conversation they didn't know how to have. That doesn't excuse the betrayal. It doesn't erase the pain of learning that my fundamental understanding of myself was built on fiction. But it helped me understand their motivations, and understanding was the first step toward forgiveness. I decided to reach out to them in November, just before Thanksgiving. We met at a neutral location, a small cafe where we'd celebrated my college acceptance years earlier. The conversation was awkward, painful, but necessary. "I need you to understand," I told them, "that even though I forgive you, this changes everything between us. Trust isn't something you can just rebuild overnight. It has to be earned back, piece by piece." They both nodded, tears in their eyes. Dad reached across the table and took my hand. "We'll spend the rest of our lives earning back your trust, if that's what it takes." We agreed to family therapy. We committed to complete honesty going forward, no matter how uncomfortable the truth might be. Most importantly, they agreed to help me search for information about my biological parents if and when I was ready for that journey. The road to rebuilding our relationship wasn't easy. There were setbacks, arguments, and moments when I wondered if the betrayal had damaged us beyond repair. But slowly, carefully, we began to construct something new, a relationship based on truth instead of lies, on acceptance instead of protection. Today, a year later, I can say that while the betrayal nearly destroyed our family, it ultimately made us stronger. Not because betrayal is good, it's not. Family betrayal cuts deeper than almost any other kind because it attacks the very foundation of who we believe ourselves to be. But courage isn't the absence of betrayal or pain. Courage is what you do after your world falls apart. It's choosing to rebuild rather than staying broken. It's learning to trust again, even when trust feels impossible. My parents and I will never have the simple, innocent relationship we once shared. Too much has happened. Too much trust has been broken and rebuilt. But we have something different now, something more honest, more intentional, more real. I learned that families aren't just about biology or even about the lies we tell ourselves to feel safe. Families are about the choice to love each other through the worst betrayals and the hardest truths. They're about the decision to stay and fight for each other, even when leaving would be easier. If you're watching this because someone in your family has betrayed your trust, I want you to know that you're not alone. The pain you're feeling is real and valid. Take the time you need to process, to heal, to decide what forgiveness looks like for you. But don't let their betrayal become your prison. Don't let someone else's failure to be truthful rob you of your capacity to trust, to love, to hope for better relationships in the future. Your story matters, and your courage to rebuild matters even more. If this resonated with you, please subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. Share your own story of family betrayal and healing in the comments below. You never know who might need to hear that they're not alone in their struggle. And remember, betrayal may break you, but it doesn't have to define you. You have the power to write the next chapter of your story, and that chapter can be filled with truth, healing, and a love that's stronger because it's been tested. Thank you for watching 30 Minutes of Courage. Until next time, keep choosing courage over comfort, truth over convenience, and healing over